With VSL funnels, there are three big inherent problems where you will lose leads. One being the gap between the opt-in and the VSL funnel, where people choose not to opt in. One between the VSL and the application page, where people will choose not to press play, a certain percentage, no matter what you do, but that percentage will change. And third and foremost, there is a big gap as well between the application and the call application page, where people are not signing up to actually get to the call. Now, for these three problems, there are tactics you can use for getting more people to opt in on that page. There are tactics you can do for getting more people to press play and watch your VSL. And there are tactics you can do to get more people to apply. But with these tactics in place, roughly you will see these numbers. 20% of people at the opt-in page will move forward to sign up for the VSL, and you will lose 80% of people. That is meant to be an 8. At the VSL stage, 40% of, pardon me, got my numbers the wrong way round. 40% of people will press play on this VSL and move forward to the application page, which roughly equals 60% of people dropping off despite having registered for the VSL, the video to watch. And at the application page, we expect a mere 10% of people to move forward with some of the best application pages, while 90% of people will choose not to move forward at this point. Now, this is the math for a standard VSL funnel. There are a few things that are not accounted for with this, which I will explain. One, if you have a standout brand, then you can expect to do better with your numbers. And if you have a very new relative brand, then we will need to work harder to get a greater percentage of people to get to the VSL, to watch it, to apply, to get to the call. And at early stages, when we are still building a brand for our business, a reputation, for people to understand who we are, it can often be more helpful to set up a book a call funnel that sends people directly from ad to an application page, and use the VSL as a piece of nurture content. You would get people to apply and then send them to the VSL right before they join the call. And by doing that, you would build more goodwill with the people who are getting to the point of jumping on a call with you. But the big thing is, with this strategy, you have less friction. What do I mean by friction? We could roughly say that the more steps in a funnel you have, you can roughly see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 or so steps in this particular VSL funnel. The more steps you have, the more opportunities you have given these to drop off. It's not so much an opportunity as at each stage, a percentage of people will drop off. If you remove these steps, you will have fewer people drop off or choose not to continue. So, if we want more volume of people to book calls, which is extremely beneficial when we are either validating an offer or we need a volume of calls to keep our call setters happy, it's really useful to remove this VSL component and send people from ad straight to application and book those calls in. But I can also talk about having conversations directly, which generally goes from ads to conversation to call, which removes even more friction in this way. And one that is really useful for people who are validating their offer. But we talked about solutions. How can we solve this problem of, I have several people, several hundred people in fact, dropping off, and despite spending several $1,000s on sending 1,000 leads through this funnel, the majority of them are dropping off in these places. Well, for each gap here where people are dropping off, you also have an equivalent amount of opportunities. Let me explain. If we invest, let's say, $3,000 in advertising at a cost of $3 per click, we have effectively created 1,000 people's worth of traffic and send it to this opt-in page. If only 20% choose to move forward, that is 200 people who have gotten to that point of opening that VSL page, and we have 800 people who have chosen to take the time to click on the ad and arrive on that opt-in page. In addition, we have from 60% of these 800 people, of the 200 people who moved forward, so there's a little 200 up here, 40% of them press played, which is roughly 80 people, and 120 have gotten to that VSL page and not pressed play. Even warmer leads who have not chosen to move forward for one reason or another. And then at the same stage, where you have 10% of people moving forward and booking a call on that page, which means you get 8 calls roughly, then you have 72 people who have reached this book a call page and who have not moved forward. That is if the VSL gets everyone to watch it all the way through, and everyone who presses play watches the VSL all the way through, which means you need a really good VSL. But if you're using a VSL, you want that VSL to be as good as possible. You want as many people to reach the end as possible and get to that application page. So, otherwise there'll be another gap in here to be aware of. But what this means is we have 1, 2, 3 opportunities to speak again to these people who have chosen to join your funnel. Now, the way we personally go about this is we have ad campaigns that we plug into these gaps. We send these people to different ad campaigns. Now, with the very first gap where we have 800 people, they have clicked on the opt-in page, so they have some level of interest, but they have chosen not to go through your VSL funnel. What we generally do at this stage, especially when we're using VSL ads and thousands upon thousands, tens of thousands of dollars in ad spend, we get thousands of people at this stage. What we do is we send them to another way they can go through this, nurture process. What we personally use is a 3 to 5 minute video called Power Content, PC for short. This is a 3 to 5 minute video, and its function is to create what we call invisible leads. The short explanation of video leads is as follows. When someone watches your video on Facebook for a certain percentage of time, in this case 25%, Facebook adds it to what is called an invisible list. An invisible list is a list of these retargetable leads that you can now send additional advertising to. And now what happens with this invisible list? We can choose to send them the contents of the VSL. We can educate them on the problems that you solve. And we can send them those posts and videos that would usually go out just directly on social media. We can send them advertising direct to them. And this comes into play with a second campaign called the conveyor belt. I will write it out in full here. Conveyor belt. You can think of the conveyor belt campaign as I mentioned, taking all of your content and sending it to this invisible list we have created. I would also take all of the people who have registered as leads and send them to this conveyor belt. What it essentially does is it gives them the information they need to go from not ready to buy, because they chose not to watch the VSL and buy, and we add pieces of content as steps all the way up to the point where they learn the clarity about what it is you offer, the certainty that what you offer is the right fit for them, and trust in you as a brand and business and person to become ready to buy. It takes a longer amount of time than what you think. I was just finding the right words for that. The buying cycle, as researched by Google and different companies, is now considered to be 62 to 67 days. What happens if it takes 62 to 67 days for someone to reach a decision on whether to buy either from you or a competitor? Well, for one, it means that if we test ads for 30 days and it doesn't result in a large return on ad spend or a really profitable one, then we may need to shift our testing period to 60 days. See what happens after 60 days. We need to keep in mind that people are taking longer to make these buying decisions. And at the same time, we want to create a situation where we're more likely to win over these clients by sending them continuous content that builds, as I mentioned, that clarity, certainty, and trust. And one thing I would do, if you have hundreds of thousands of retargeting audience, some of our clients build that through power content, some of our clients do that through their advertising funnels. They want to create a special campaign called the green light sequence. Send me a message if you want to see what this setup looks like with the green light sequence campaign. But there is one final thing to show you. You could implement any one of these particular campaigns and it would benefit your funnel, but making sure to include all of them will increase your return on ad spend the most. When you have lots of people registering for your VSL, so you have them as leads, they have opted in, but they have chosen not to move forward, we personally send these leads to a retargeting campaign that we call the fast funnel. Now, the benefit of this fast funnel is it's going to convert a certain percentage of these VSL people who have not moved forward into a call. So you're going to recapture a certain percentage. Roughly, I'd say about 10%. But what this consists of is as soon as you've reached 1,000 of these applicants, you can directly advertise to them. Until you get to that point, you can use the fast funnel ads in the conveyor belt. But what is the fast funnel ad? Fast funnel ad is a two-step post that is designed to start a conversation by offering a free resource. You can actually take your VSL video and you can break it down into 3 main problems and create a resource for each to solve it. You can even create an ad based on that problem you solve without needing to create a separate resource because of the reason I will show you in a moment. Then you're going to set up an ad for each, say $5 per day. You're going to retarget these leads that you have brought in, and you're going to start conversations, get people to raise their hand and ask for these value bombs, these resources that we have talked about. We personally call them value bombs. And what you're then going to do is you're going to start a diagnostic conversation with each one of these leads. You're going to figure out what immediate problem they need to solve through this diagnostic conversation. This will show you simultaneously who are these leads who are most invested in solving their problem, and it will show you what you need to, first of all, give them to solve that immediate problem. Second of all, it will show you what bigger problem it's worthwhile for them to solve, that they need to solve, that would be worth them joining you on a call for. Say if you are teaching advertising as part of your offer, and their immediate problem you discover on this conversation is they need to create powerful headlines for their ads. So you teach them how to create a powerful headline that fixes their ads. But the big thing that they'll need to fix about their advertising campaign is they'll need an ecosystem like this one I'm showing you now in order to get 4 to 5 times their return on ad spend or more. And would it be worth joining me on a 15-minute call if I could show you how that strategy system works? So you created a reason for them to book a call. And so through this additional process, without making any changes to your VSL funnel, you are recapturing around 10% of these people booking calls with them with high intent. So all of this works together. There are more pieces to how this works, but I wanted to show you this overview so you can get an idea of how the pieces fit together. And in our other videos, we will go in more depth on how to create each of these free campaigns, our the green light sequence, and we will speak on how to get this all to work together to bring you a higher return on ad spend. Hope you have a wonderful day.